Hello and welcome to today's episode of the program, The Law, the People and Governance, here on Spectrum Television, a program that talks about government's policy, x-rays everything that has to do with the policies of government, and of course explains it better to the people and gets feedback from the people back to the government as well. Well, Nigeria had one time to make great decisions that would either mar or make the country. I'm talking about the presidential, the National Assembly, the GUBA, and of course the Set Assembly polls that were just concluded. Well, this is a time for us to sit back and x-ray, of course, everything that had taken place during the elections and see where we can make corrections. This, the body that is in charge of course, bringing out or conducting the electoral process, I'm talking about the Independent National Electoral Commission, the umpire, was being tasked with the responsibility to, of course, take the people to the polling unit, run all through the electoral processes and help the people vote in a new leader to represent them for the next 4 years. Well, how well were they able to do that? That is the question we're going to ask ourselves today as we x-ray all the happenings, the events that took place during the governorship and of course the presidential polls, but we will be focusing much on the governorship polls because it was just concluded on Saturday. Before we go further, my name is Rachel David White, and this is a program that allows you to, of course, air your views, drop your comments and your contributions as well. So as time goes on, we'll drop a phone number on your TV screen where you can be part of the conversation. Well, before we go into the business of the day, I'd like to introduce my guest in the house who joined us live today. I'm talking about Mr. Bernard Titus. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so he's been here, I think, twice on the show on behalf of the Obidati campaign group. But this time we're talking about the governorship elections. So we're taking a look at INEC's performances. Of course, how well did they perform? We saw what happens during the presidential polls, and then we gave them another chance. When I say we, I mean Nigerians gave them another chance to, of course, to put things back in place, put themselves on check, transmit the result electronically, and not just INEC, of course, the security chiefs and agencies to, of course, put things back on track. But it seems to me that this poll did not have a big difference, a huge difference like Nigerians expected. We still had some of those issues repeat itself, you know, ballot box snatching and the whole of, you know, we lost some lives during the polls, especially in Lagos State and even here in Akwa Ibom State. So let's just take a look at the whole process and, of course, INEC's performances as well. Welcome once again to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me start from Akwa Ibom State. How do you see the victory of the PDP here in the state?
Well, the victory to some of us is not. It was long anticipated. Okay. You know, though, if you want to look at them in at the broad perspective, so the environment was good enough for all the you know, the candidates in various parties, and then some had expected that there's going to be some sort of a merger between Party A and Party B to have a very solid foundation for a particular candidate to strive. But you know, politicians will always
if we want to dwell on the major issue, you know, it would take a whole 1 hour because yes, but then, I mean I would also like to have the party representatives, each of those parties, especially the APC and the
PDP,
the PDP.
Labour.
No, not just the PDP, the APC and the YPP. Of course, you know, so many people believe if there was a major and then the APC had merged with the YPP, something would have been different. I mean, Akwa Ibom would have been ripped off the niche that it is a PDP state. Yes. But we didn't see that happen.
It didn't happen. You know, they got to a point as political gladiators keep going in their career, the ego comes into play. who gets what becomes a top paramount in their career. But however, like I said, to some of us, we're not surprised that, you know, but I can tell you YPP, they did their best. It's not easy for
to come out
second. And however, you know, spending such just barely how many months of the party, they did the best. They did their best. And also. Wow. But then for PDP, it was anticipated. Why? Because this is a long foundation political party that have been able to lay some sort of foundation over the years.
Talking about that, didn't you see the power of incumbency come to play? I mean, it's tough for you know, a sitting governor to have a preferred candidate and it's knocked out. It sounds really impossible, except from the days of Atta, which the politics being played then is not the same politics being played today.
Yeah, I quite agree with you. You know, not per se the governorship thing. In some governors who aspired in other offices, they also lost their election in various
of course
home. But then the dynamics of today's politics has shifted a little bit from the ideal of a political godfatherism style to people-centric, who the people want and the governor the support.
So would you say we had a fair play here in Akwa Ibom State?
If you ask me, I wasn't opportune to go to all the wards or all the local government to have, you know, I wasn't an observer either. I was basically focusing in my polling unit. But in all information we've gathered with our people across, we had little minor, we had issues in some polling unit, but then it was indeed a fair play. You know, where all the candidates exercised and their followers and their support too did the best they could. But then usually the winner will always be determined at the end of a particular contest. So all of them did perfectly well. But I don't know, for some other person who had believed that some other party would have, you know, PDP wouldn't have, you know, won the elections. I don't know. You know, we have different political perspective on political dimension, which he or she is viewing his opinion from. But in my own perspective, from the onset, I knew that PDP was going to win the elections.
Okay, well, let's move away from that now and dwell on the topic of today. Let's x-ray INEC's performance. Now, taking a look at the whole thing all over again. I know we've been here to talk about the performances of INEC on the presidential polls.
Yes.
And then it was like giving someone another chance to, you know, have it right, okay?
And the person keep messing up.
Okay, I don't want to. I don't want to conclude on that. That's why you're here to talk about it. So, would you say they really messed up, or you know, they cleaned their tracks this time?
Well, it's rather unfortunate that INEC. You know, the last time I came here, I said they failed completely. The reason is, you see, if you go back to take a look at the videos of the INEC chairman,
this is a news scorecard entirely.
It's the same thing.
This is a news scorecard.
It could relate together. Whatever happened at the presidential elections repeated itself at the governor both House of Assembly governorship election across the country, exception of few states.
Now I beg to differ a little. Now, you know, when you say whatever happened at the presidential. Now, the presidential is a poll where we saw lots of young people, you know, canvass support for Peter Obi, the Labour Party candidate, presidential
candidate. What happened at the end of the day?
Yeah, and then we had, of course, we had support from the APC, you know, people as well, you know, voting for Tinubu. But we saw lots of violence that were not addressed. We saw lots of issues that were not addressed. And at the end, INEC was so quick to announce, in the middle of the night, like people say, like a thief in the night, they announced Tinubu as the winner of the presidential election. Now, but what if you want to say it repeated itself? Now, we've already talked about Akwa Ibom State, where you said, okay, that you would say it happened free and fair. So, and on some other states as well, okay? I mean, across the 28 states, we know that many governors had been re-elected while some of them lost their seats, and even at the state assembly level as well. But if you want to say the same thing happened, now to what percentage? Because in the presidential poll, it was clear that this person was being expected, but the reverse was the case.
Well, this is the area I'm trying to draw my perspective from.
Okay.
You know, if it's in a civilized nation, the INEC chairman should have resigned, or it would have been called to question, because there are so many issues that they haven't addressed. That's number one. Two, we had expected, remember, he sent, he notified the National Assembly for reconfigurations of the beavers to enable him conduct, you know, the elections, right? And then what happened in some polling unit, right? Those INEC ad hoc staffs were not able to load. In fact, I remember vividly, I had to on my hotspot for an INEC official to get try to see if we can get network to upload election material to the polling unit. So the inadequacies of their preparedness is my problem, because it took over more than 4 years or 8 years preparations, and then the gaps of in coordinate of the whole stuff doesn't make any sense. Your staff has come out to conduct elections. They should come out with a router, get them prepared. They were busy looking for something to use who can on hotspot for you. But
did it repeat itself during the group of polls?
Yes, in some polling units, there's some challenges that they were not able to, network problem challenges.
But aside from that, you know, I remember the court had called them, sorry to cut you, you know, to make sure that they transmit results electronically. So compared to the presidential polls where we had, you know, you would score them 0 at that point. Now, the whole process was manually, you know, done. So compared to the just concluded group and state assembly polls, wouldn't you say, oh, INEC had, you know, gone a bit better than it was before?
Well, if I should score them better, yes, better in the sense that I think the complaint was a little bit less, as it were, at the presidential elections. In some states, you realize that what is being recorded on the IREF is not exactly what the
polling unit recorded
and all of that. For instance, in Abia State, for instance, at of early hour, the citizens were aware of who is the poll,
who is leading.
Then few hours later, the coalition, the INEC, you know, completely stopped the coalition. What happened? Because and about 1 hour later too, we heard the party, the LP candidate, you know, hosted press conference that there is something going on that is wrong that the INEC is trying to do, because the citizen was already aware that this is who is leading on the poll. So in all of these, INEC chairman and the commission owe Nigeria an apology and a thorough explanation, because you can't go and appear on the national scale to tell the international community and national level that you had prepared to conduct a free, fair and credible elections, and resources were allotted on that regard, that the citizen came out massively to prepare for that. And you keep saying, emphasizing, suddenly, I mean, the one I can't really phantom in all of these is, on what ground did you announce the presidential election? I have not really figured out the ground for it. But however, I will allow the court to deal with that.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
The court will deal with that. But then it's going to be a lot of problem waiting for them if they try to subvert the, you know, enough. I think after this presidential election, with the court tribunal issues, whatever they decide will determine a whole lot with Nigerian citizens what happened next. Because the reason why people are quiet and, you know, seem to be just people are going about their normal activities just to see what the INEC, the tribunal, what is going to come up with it, because that will determine the narrative of what Nigerian people would say. But then, coming back home, we can't completely rule out that there is still, you know, we are still developing. There is still a whole lot of technological, you know, issues that need to be addressed. But however, we must also commend them a little bit, because it's not easy to, you know, work in an environment as compared to ours. But the question is, how long are we going to keep developing with such amount of resources every blessed,
you know, talking about that, someone said something, go to election in other parts of the world, you see that the kind of money that is being pumped in is less. But here we have a place where money is pumped in a way we can't even explain. And then an office that is supposed to be a public office, for public servants, like say the governor serves the people, is now looking like a place where you stay to inherit wealth. Now, someone made a statement, an assertion. It says, Nigeria is not a nation yet. It says Nigeria is a union of sectional interests.
That's very well. I quite agree with him in totality, in a sense that, well, let me not quickly. We are a nation, but the problem is the few, like the second paragraph of his statement is quite correct, because the reason why every young person like how want to go into this field is because there is a whole lot of money.
Oh.
Right?
So it's now true that
it's not about the people's
the politics of interest.
It's about the politics of interest. And nobody cares about who is competent, who is not competent. We've seen that across all levels, where people who are not mentally prepared, haphazardly unorganized, given state of an authority, and they make blunders financially, managerially, just everything messed up. So what will you say? And like I said, and I keep emphasizing, our choice of our criteria in terms of leadership selection must be reviewed from the university down to the local government councillor to who become a youth leader in the village. We must set a standard, a little standard, to evaluate who leads and who doesn't. Okay. Secondly, the jumbo paid. I mean, I think Nigeria is only the country in the world that politics is so juicy.
Yeah, it makes room juicy for people to hunger for, do anything.
It's too juicy. So that's why you see, if you're not elected, people can die for your own problem. Now, it should be, the reverse should be the case.
Okay.
But you see now is because it's juicy, and because the whole of the offices are too attractive, and most of the people...
And the benefits.
And most of the people who are even, vying for most of these offices are not mentally prepared. And some of them sit in the National Assembly without funding any particular bill, without raising any bill. And then the next term, he still wants his people to... He will definitely find his way to get to power. Now, if we evaluate him from human perspective, what dividend has his people benefited from? 0.00%.
I think Nigerian politics has suddenly become a place where you sit there to inherit wealth for your family and friends. So you shift for the next person who wants to inherit weight for his family and friends as well. So it keeps going that way, rather than serve the people.
Well, yeah, technically. But another major problem is that the good people always think politics is dated. It's not dated. It is the players themselves that make the thing look dated. Politics should be focused mainly on governance.
But when you say politics is not dirty, I understand where you're coming from. But if you want to take a look at the process, the outcome, the results, you can't trust a clean, political play. Yeah, I call it political play without, blood stains.
Is it necessary? There are politicians who doesn't even involve in any of that. And I think another major problem is there should be another major problem that look as if it doesn't allow more people to come to the politics is because the process is it doesn't make sense. How many million do I need to get a form to do tax clearance is huge. To get a nomination form is
that's
huge.
why you sit to inherit, so you can inherit the wealth you've lost.
And then you will have cliques of friends that want to come and sponsor you, and with the view
now you're going to put them in your cabinet.
So when that is finally settled, they must also be settled. So when you are struggling to balance the little resources within settling the people who finance the process and falling back on the people who is supposed to be your essence of going into governance, this is a two-way different thing. That is a problem. And then those who also have the technical know-how of leadership don't have the needed resources to run for it. So you need to go. Banks won't come and finance you to run for an office because it doesn't make sense in the banking industry. Where when you fail, where they get the money from? How will you pay off your debt? So you see now, it has to be somebody who is into that particular field, or probably donors, individual people that can just say, okay, fine, we are ready to support you to go get a nomination form and vying for any office. Another thing is because they're not too young to run bill, sincerely speaking. I think this year, 2023, it has makes a little bit more sense because a 26-year-old young lady in Kwara, won a seat as well. So we have more young people coming in a little bit, just a little fraction of the larger offices, but then it's improving by it has really drastically improved for this year.
Okay.
But then more people, young people, should be given more opportunity and platform to learn in the job and be better as well, contribute more better to the society as well. So because the older politicians have dominated the scene, some of them have spent 20 to 40 years, 50 years in the field. And how many young people have you been able to mentor and transfer certain political dividends or whatever, so that they can also, transfer all of that to other generations? So this is a major problem. But then I'm glad that I think the whole essence of all of this is because Peter Obi, they never thought. Some of them have come out to say publicly that Peter Obi tsunami almost consumed some of them. They never could believe that. And in all of these that unfold, I'm just, if they can sit down and reevaluate, okay, fine. If I almost lost the elections, so it therefore is called for a questioning of my political ideology. What am I not doing well? There should be some personal assessment and evaluation that you are not possibly leading your people. It should be about the more of the people, not about yourself. Because the more you do more stuff for the people, the more the people will always want to stand for you and say, in advanced nation, you see a senator spending how many years in the Senate?
Okay. Well, now I'm just going to go talking about that. I think there was room for the likes of Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia of the Benue State from APC to actually emerge. We saw something that would have created a very big history, but that's I'm talking about Adamawa State.
Yeah.
If Binani had actually become the first female governor, it would be something, to change.
I think she should be the second.
Yeah, the second, rather. It would have actually been, something Nigerians would clamor about. Although some people started viewing it the other way around, thinking INEC was actually working in favor. But away from that, the president-elect Tinubu says elections are finally over. It's time for the healing process.
He has to heal himself. So, I said it very bluntly. The last time I was here, my president is Peter Obi. Okay. And until the court determine who lead the nation, I remember Peter Obi said something very profound. He said the process that led to your winning or you becoming His Excellency must be legitimate. So I'm wondering how his people are celebrating him. For me, I don't know. Whatever he wants to do, he has to do it for his people.
Well, this is just to remind the people that in case you're just turning on your TV set, and this is the program, The Law of the People and Governance, here on Spectrum Television. And of course, you can be a part of the conversation as we're x-raying the performances of INEC and just, taking a look at a review of the whole process entirely. You can be a part of the conversation by calling the number displayed on your TV screen. Send us a text or a WhatsApp message. While we're being joined live here in the studio by Mr. Bennett Titus. Of course, he was the collation officer for the presidential, just concluded presidential election on behalf of the Obi Dati campaign group. Welcome once again. All right, so I'll just take us some, tweets earlier today. We saw the likes of Fowles, talking the popular singer, saying INEC boss sets the guidelines but came to complain that systems were hacked. Why not conduct fresh elections but instead went ahead to announce results? Where did he get the results? That's a query. And Gino Malaya says INEC It is finished, and Jesus wept. Only demon-possessed people, by gods, never do well, will support APC and INEC collabo to redefine democracy. Shame on APC and INEC for turning Nigeria to international laughingstock. And still talking about that, you know, we had the observers, foreign observers, under the aegis of International Police Sustainable Development and Law Enforcement, IPCSL rather, they said that the March 18 governorship and Houses of Assembly elections in Lagos State were peacefully conducted.
Well,
okay, I wish time would permit. I would love to, you know, drop some footages, because on the day of the election, we had lots and lots and lots of footages where there was thuggery. You know, there were talking about thuggery. We saw people, you know, voters, the electorate released their dogs to chase away thugs. Although we also saw some thugs being gunned down. We even had one of our resource person in Lagos who said he wasn't allowed to vote because he was a Labour Party, you know, candidate. And then they already knew that he was coming. I'm talking about Victor and Ilaju. They already knew that he was coming to vote for Labour Party. So they didn't even allow him to step into the polling unit.
Well, the observers, I have a problem when sometimes...
As I'm talking about the International Police Chaplain Sustainable.
Yes. The observers, sometimes I think, in my opinion, their opinions sometimes are not very logical.
Why do you say so?
Yes, because you didn't... Where did they observe the election in Lagos? We saw mass thuggery, I mean, violence everywhere in Lagos. And all of a sudden, you host a press conference and tell the whole country that election was peaceful in Lagos. Probably it was peaceful in where you stood to observe the election. So I think there should always be fair in their objectives. You must be objective in any issues.
Now, let me just put this one also before we still talk about that. The European Union Election Observation Mission, that's the EU, EOM, now, said the Independent National Electoral Commission failed to meet expectations of Nigerians with the conduct of Saturday's governorship and state assembly elections. Now, they made the statement in Abuja on Monday. That's through their chief observer of the mission, Barry Andrews.
Well, you know,
But just a moment, let's take a call before we started. Hello, good evening, welcome to the show.
Good evening, madam. Thank you for the job you're doing.
All right, tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
I'm calling from Calabar.
Your name?
My name is Sylvanus.
All right, Sylvanus, go ahead.
Yes. I want to thank you for the good job you are doing.
Thank you, too.
Because the Nigerian electorate to be enlightened, we need people like you to continue to push the truth.
Thank you,
The young man who is on the queue is wonderful. And that's the kind of Nigeria we want.
All right, we appreciate your comment.
Why the snail size? You know the snail size. And you don't know why it's dying. That Nigerians have not been able to react to the so-called election 2023. It should give a cause for concern. All I need to advise, let the courts do the needful. Else, I think the key activities, which we call the NSAS, will just be a child's play. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your contribution. We appreciate it.
Yes.
All right, so let's come back to that. So we're looking at these two things. Well, you want to react to that?
I quite agree with him. You see, the NSAS was just... You see, the reason why everywhere is calm, like I reiterated earlier, is because... I'm sorry to say this. is because the Nigerian citizen believes in Peter Obi 100%. And if Peter Obi called for a protest in less than how many minutes, there will be a national scale issue. And the reason why citizens are calm and patient is because an average Nigerian citizen is waiting patiently to see what the court will determine.
I remember after the presidential polls, you know, lots of the obedience, the Peter Obi supporters came up with a protest tag, End Nigeria, End INEC. But the Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, actually moved to put a stop to that protest.
Like I said, everywhere is calm because this is, for me, this is the first time the Nigerian people should believe in a man completely. And they are calm and collected because they're waiting to see what the judiciary system will do with the judgment.
No, don't you think that
and if anything
okay,
falls short of the expectation of the Nigerian, just minute tonight, or what this conversation, the Nigerian citizens will revolt, and NSAS was just the beginning of what will happen if the court subvert the will of the people. Secondly, let me comment on the things you read earlier. Dino Malaye did...
No, before you get to that point, okay, just a moment. Now, I'm going to talk about the issue of, you know, Peter Obi in court. We've had some people call him to, you know, withdraw. Okay?
It's not his case, it's Nigerian case.
Yeah, he said that. Well, I'd like to ask, don't you think maybe if he, like the president-elect says, puts hands together with the president-elect, Ahmed Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, of course, to build a nation, and like he said, you know, elections are over, healing process should begin, don't you think it would make a better sense, you know, to
if the process that brought Suwaju was legitimate, the Peter Obi that we believe would have done the right thing.
Okay.
He doesn't necessarily need to consult Peter Obi. For Peter would have extended the congratulatory message before now. Because the system has failed. The institution has failed. And it's becoming it's a failed state completely.
Okay, I'm talking about a failed state.
Yes, it's a failed state.
I'm going to link to what the former president of Nigeria and the person of Goodluck Ebele, Jonathan, said. He said a country that doesn't go through the ballot to put, you know, elect its leaders is doomed. It's a failed state.
I quite agree with him. So the question now we should correlate now is, how did Asiwaju emerge as the president of Nigeria? On what process did generally made him the president? Can we see truly? In my polling unit, for instance, how many people voted him? Nigerians, we have a record.
What result did you have?
We have the record. I have the record of my polling unit.
But what did INEC announce?
What did INEC announce? A complete mess of what was. I mean, I saw my polling unit record. I'm asking myself, I'm like, is it what we did in my polling unit, or what did these guys just? So we are waiting patiently on that regard. But however, it's commendable for Dino Malaye over. He's been very vocal. I did admire his courage during the whole
coalition process
time.
in Abuja.
I might not agree with his ideology entirely, but objectively, he did represent a world view, a large view of Nigerian citizen that was watching. So his comments, for me, is highly very intelligent and profound. So INEC 2023 elections should, whoever, I think after now, it should be scrapped out, because it's more or less that we are becoming a lawless state. There are stipulated guidelines.
What should be scrapped? Is it the umpire that conducts election or the elections itself? Completely.
The umpire that conducted the election should be scrapped out completely. There is a stipulated guideline for INEC to follow. There is a guideline specifically, and they told us specifically that the election will be conducted in real-time live at polling unit. And I saw it a couple of days ago on the national TV when some of the, in fact, even the Senate president was struggling to interpret what the same law.
Don't go there.
I don't remember her name. She was trying to tell them, hey, there is a guideline, and INEC should follow the guideline procedure. So whatever they have done is, in my opinion, at this level, is completely out of order. Because there was a stipulated guideline. All you need to do for us to believe that you are fair in your conduct as an institution is to follow the guideline, which you said it yourself.
Okay, now let's come back to the the foreign observers under the aegis of the International Police Chaplain, Sustainable Development and Law Enforcement, and also the European Union Election Observation Mission. And let's link that to the I think UK commissioner that came out to say that she feels that the elections in Nigeria, was cool. I think I have that footage, and Aisha Yusufu made a strong reply to that comment. Well, in a short while, the footage will be on the screen, so we can take a look at that. Well, for you, okay. Now comparing these two, okay. So let's just listen to her.
This fascination that people were. You came out to tell us that the 2023 election, you found it fascinating. You found it fascinating that people were killed. You found it fascinating that people were injured, people were harmed. You found it fascinating that results were being changed. You find it fascinating that violence was brought into the election. Well, they've heard you. They've heard you loud and clear. And the gubernatorial election, they unleashed more violence. More people have been killed. More people have been harmed. More people have been disenfranchised. More people have been refused to perform their civic duty. The same thing that you not accept in your own country. You come to our country and you sit down, you're fascinated by an election that is marred with violence because, of course, it's a horror film you can watch live happening. Again and again and again we have stand. This double standard, this two-faced standard, we do not want it. You sit in your pretty little countries, you have elections where people are free to go out and vote, where nobody is afraid for their life, where nobody is killed when they go out for election, and then you come to our own place, you accept a minimal standard, you're okay with, a few being killed, because those few are not part of your family.
So you saw that video where Aisha Yusufu, of course, we know Aisha is a strong voice when it comes to, speaking for the Nigerian youth and Nigeria at large.
Yeah.
So when the UK commissioner came to say she found the elections fascinating. So I'm still going to link that to, of course, what the foreign observers, commending INEC, and the, of course, another one was the election union, of course, another observer, foreign observer, saying, I don't agree. I think INEC did not do well in the elections.
Well, I don't expect the two foreign observers to
have the same idea.
Have the same idea and opinion. But then one must supersede another.
Okay.
In a sense that I'm wondering what was fascinating about the whole thing, the election that was marred with irregularities, and you're telling us you were fascinated. So the whole thing boiled down to one single thing. I think Nigerian authorities should come up with something more constructive, better, rather than INEC and the entire institution that made up INEC. If we can't fine-tune a more credible tools to conduct elections, we should better forget about it. And I think also it would be better, let's have election conducted in, maybe use 31 days, for instance, to conduct elections.
Okay, just a moment, let's take a call, come back to that. Hello, good evening, welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Yeah, tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
I'm Abdurazak Mohammed. I'm calling out you from Delta State, Sapele.
All right, go ahead.
You see this issue of election INEC.
Please turn down the volume of your TV set.
Okay. An election that we are talking about. The problem is not INEC.
Okay, so what's the problem?
It's the weed in Nigeria that are the problem.
Okay.
Because we never accept to conduct a free and fair election to ourselves. If you look at what happened in governorship election, you see intimidation in every state. Vote buying in every state. So you will now find out that we on our own, we are not even ready to give that room to INEC to do what is needful.
Okay.
That's the problem we have. Not all these observers, they just go to Abuja, Lagos, or other, but they don't go to the villages. I think that's the problem we have. Because when you talk now, all the parties that we have in Nigeria, they have youth. And these youth are fighting for different political parties. And especially those who have a brother or whatever. So that's the problem we have in Nigeria. Until we all agree that we want something to go smoothly, INEC cannot do any miracle.
Okay.
Because it's me and you that is INEC.
All right, thank you so much for your contribution. Let's quickly come back to the studio and round that up. We'll just have 3 minutes to go.
Well, in retrospect, I think I quite agree with him in certain aspect. Firstly, Nigerian citizens are also part of the whole
of course, when they make themselves available to
we make ourselves available
as
ad hoc staff of the INEC, and in the same time infiltrate the system again. Because your job was simple. Go there, do the election thing. Whatever negotiation you need to do, that is not your concern. Your work is to protect the Nigerian citizens and protect the Nigerian vote. Give us an accurate data of what the people says. And then by the time they give you a little token, you are off the scene and do something else. So you are also part of the problem, adding to the INEC problem. The INEC is also having their own problem of insincerity and lack of integrity. And then you as a Nigerian citizen joining them, who are we blaming? So it's interrelated together. So we must find a better way of finding this and resolving it for once. It's becoming appalling in all of the elections we've seen.
Well, at this point, I wish we could go on and on again because there's so much to talk about. We'll leave that for tomorrow. We'll still have this whole process to talk over and over again. Thank you so much, Mr. Bernard Tages.
Thank you. It's feel good to be here always.
All right, so back to the people. Thank you for your comments and contributions. Well, the program, The Law of the People and Governance, comes again tomorrow. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. My name is Rachel David White. Good evening.